So Nate Cheviron, welcome to the Founder Talk podcast. We'll just get right into it, man.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, glad to be here.
And I'll introduce you as a former co-founder of Chevron Enterprises.
Yep.
Right? Is that right? Obviously, we're going to get into it. I'm excited for this episode because it's just wildly different than what we've done in the past.
For sure.
Because you are a founder of multiple different businesses,
Yeah.
had a bunch of success, sold a couple of them,
Mhm.
closed a couple of them,
Mhm.
and then decided to get back into the W-2 world and
That's
become an
it.
employee.
Yes.
So that's a cool journey, man. And it's one that I think people need to hear more of.
Yeah.
I think there's people out here that will get a lot of value from it, whether they're going to continue to be a founder or whether
Mhm.
they're going to, potentially do something else or sell their company or whatever it is.
For sure. For
So,
sure.
excited to get into
Excited to be in it. There's a lot
Yeah,
of scar
man.
tissue, from the last few years,
For
still
sure,
working
I bet.
through, but it's,
Yeah.
it's really good.
So take us back. So me and you obviously kind of known each other a little bit from the corporate world. We
Yes.
worked for a huge multi-billion-dollar company.
Yep.
So I think you were there for like 12 something years around
Mhm.
there. Walk me through what you decided to leave that world to get into the entrepreneurial world.
Yes.
I'm curious to hear that.
Yeah. So, I'll actually step back even before that.
Cool.
Right. So, born and raised Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yep.
Right. Went to Purdue Fort Wayne, is where I studied. I actually have a physics and math degree.
Good old
And
Midwestern boy.
I know, right?
Just hardworking, just.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm married to my college sweetheart.
That's
right.
cool,
So
yeah.
we met early on, and when I graduated, I was didn't want to be a high school physics teacher. I had a job,
Okay.
offer from that. Didn't want to go on to grad school and live the life of like the Big Bang Theory or something. And
Mhm.
so I said, let's go get into sales. Always, talkative person and everything else. And so I was looking for like a sales engineering, application engineering type job. Went to a company called Aerotech and to look for a job. And they were like, hey, we really don't hire that skill set here, but we're hiring an engineering recruiter, and we only promote from within and,
Yeah.
the sales opportunity and everything else, and interviewed with them and fell in love with the people, the culture. And I was there for a better part of a decade. Right. And it was a really good journey. Wore a lot of different hats in that organization, and really got my PhD in business, if you will,
Yeah.
from that company, and just learned so much, not just what it was internally, but also you had access to all of these other companies and all of these other industries, and saw how just, what high performing teams look like. And then you got this skill set to say like, hey, really all it is just putting the right people together, and you get the right people together moving in the right direction, you can really do anything.
Yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
it was 2018. Started my companies officially in 2020, but 2018, I just had this thought. I was walking down the hallway, and it wasn't like an egotistical thought. It was like, I think I could be the best in the world at building teams, and I'm like, let's do this, right? And then I'm like, okay, let's keep going. I'm like, why do it? Why do it for someone else? Why not just for myself?
Right.
And fast forward to 2019, Memorial Day of 2019, I climbed Mount Hood out in Oregon, and summited Hood with my cousin, Austin Chevron. So we then, on that trip, we both summited the mountain together, and we ultimately decided, hey, let's go into business together. And so fast forward a little bit further, December of 2019, we basically partnered and started our first company together. I was still within Allegis Group. And
So it was a side hustle for you.
It was a side hustle.
That's
to
how I started
start.
mine, man. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me ask you something though.
Yeah.
I'll pause you real quick on this
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
So you had this thought, like I want to, be the top leader or be the best leader I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
be.
yeah.
I thought I have a lot more potentially to put out there.
Yep.
But was there another factor that made you want to not do it for the current company? Because you're there for, over that point, 10 plus years. You got a career. You probably have company stock.
Sure.
You're kind of a made man at that point. If
Yeah.
you've done well at this company, like
Mhm.
why risk it all and be like, I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to go off on my own.
I could narrow it down into one word: control.
Mm.
I saw a path. I wanted to continue to grow and everything else. And the company was shifting at the time, in terms of just operating companies and everything else. And
Yeah.
very grateful for that company. They were just making a lot bigger decisions, than, what they did with Nate Cheviron.
Yeah,
Right. And so seeing that and knowing that, it's like, you know what? I want to continue to grow, continue to do the things I know I'm built to do. And so I'm like, I think it's time to go on my own.
Mhm.
And
Now, what'd your wife say?
She was nervous.
My parents were the same. I didn't have a wife at the time,
she
but like,
was
yeah.
nervous. Yeah, because at the time we just had our third child, and so she's like, actually, when I went all into the companies and everything, and left. Left Allegis Group, she goes, "Hey, when do we get paid?" I'm like, it doesn't always work like that.
Yeah. That's funny.
And so, she was very nervous, and I kind of pulled her along, into the vision and the dream and everything else. And, but yeah, so it was, we did. We went all in. Actually, during COVID was interesting, it was a side hustle, but because of, the nature of what happened during that time, everything shut down. You weren't able to go in, and I was traveling a lot for work, and I wasn't able to travel anymore. And I didn't hide anything, but I basically did both at the same time, and was able to put myself in a position to support our family full time. And beginning of 2021, went all in.
Now, what were you doing at the time for the business?
So we went into real estate. So my cousin Austin, top performing real estate agent, in all of Indiana. We then partnered on a platform, EXP Realty. So it's an independent real estate brokerage and a technology company. You could basically build up your, boutique brokerage or team, if you will, off of that platform. And so we just partnered with them to do that. So our first company was what we called the Cheviron Group, which is a real estate team. And I was kind of putting together the team and the mechanics of the team and the structure and kind of behind the scenes. Then we put Austin as the face of the company, naturally transitioning from a high producer to a team leader.
Right.
And then we ran a co-team lead model, from there. And then when we went into 21, we basically took all the services that we had on our team and then made each one an independent company. So we offered just back end, transaction support. So anytime a deal would go pending, it was like an on-call assistant, if you will, just to do all the paperwork, make sure everything's on time, on task. That company was called Cast Transaction Services. We had we coached and trained all of our agents. And so we then spun that off to make it into Cheviron Coaching. And so we had the Cheviron Group, Cheviron Coaching, Cast, and then...
Are these 1099 real estate agents or W-2s?
Everyone was 1099.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, everyone was 1099. And then, but then we had our own support staff that were on W-2 for us. So any employee that we had, say through Cast, they were all, W-2 coordinators.
Got
is
it.
what we call them. So transaction coordinators. And basically what was a cost center, we just flipped it around and made it a profit center. And, because there were people who, because at the time everything was siloed to, if there was a real estate agent or someone who wanted our service, but they just didn't want to switch brokerages or come onto our team for whatever reason, but they still wanted access to our coaching, or they still wanted access to the transaction coordinators or, whatever we had. And so we just compartmentalized it all.
Smart.
And then that way it was both internal and external. And then everything was overlapped to, and then off the EXP platform, we were able to start up different teams throughout the country. And so we were operating in a few different locations. And so not just in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but our second largest one was in the Virginia Beach area. Virginia, we had a lot of agents, a couple up here in the Chicagoland area, and just kind of spread out everywhere. So 2021,
you put in your notice and you actually leave, the full-time job to go all in on this.
Yep, for sure.
What was that like?
That was going back to the mountain climbing, right? So I don't know if have you ever climbed mountains or anything? So if you're like standing on the edge of a cliff or the house or something like that, if you're on a roof, you feel that exposure.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're not going to fall. You feel confident that you're good, but you feel that exposure. That's what it was like. And, we'd set up, we were still living in our very first house, that we bought, from when my wife and I first got married. And so our expenses were really low, which allowed us to make all the investments in the company that we did. So our lifestyle was at a point, it was very manageable. I didn't need to pay myself that much, right? So we were able to put all the dollars back into the company and invest in that, pay, there are times where my assistant was making more than me, and other times, obviously the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But But yeah, it was nerve wracking. But I was, like, I'm all in. We're
Right.
building something here that's great, and we were doing some really good things. And so I think, so yeah, if you ever look up the Cheviron group on, is it Real Trends? Real Trends is they basically monitor all like real estate brokerages and teams, throughout the world, really. And I think we were a top 20 team in North America for 4 years running.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think number 3, the highest we got was number 3 in the nation. Right out of Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Damn.
3 in the nation.
Putting Fort Wayne on the map.
I know.
Yeah.
And and that was in 2023. And then after that year, we decided to shut the team down. And everyone thought we were crazy, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
let me take you back real quick though.
Yeah.
So 2021 to 2022, 2023,
Yep.
are you now starting to make more money than you did at corporate? Are you starting to see the ROI a little bit, or is it still even, or what?
Yeah. I would say, my take home, the amount of money that I was bringing in, right? Yes, definitely more, right? But your
Yeah.
expenses keep going up too.
Right. Yeah.
And, we were just talking about the studio, right?
Yeah.
You start, you have a camera here and, this lighting. Oh, here's a
Yeah.
great idea. Oh, missed that one, right?
Yes,
And so
yeah.
the money just works a little different,
Right.
from, when you're self-employed to, the W-2 world.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, we were making more money,
And did you feel like you were kind of living that potential? Because I remember
Mhm.
one of the biggest reasons you left is because you wanted to be a leader and expand your potential as a leader and
Yep.
lead more people on your own terms.
Yeah.
How did you feel in regards to that the first couple of years?
Yeah, it was. It's what's interesting. The word I attached to was control.
Yeah.
And there was definitely had so much more control. But all of my companies were all partnerships, right? And so every single one of those partnerships, it's almost like a marriage,
Right.
but it's a highly conditional marriage.
Yeah.
And so I have to perform,
Right.
and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a high sense of control, but you still got to be on the same page with your team.
Yeah.
You don't have like, reckless abandonment where I'm just signing checks and, not accountable to anyone or anything. There was still high communication there. And then just with my wife as well, right? Like, hey, these are some decisions that we're making right now, makes sense for the business and everything else, but this is what it means personally.
Right.
And so it just took a different form, that was actually one of the craziest things when I went from corporate America to being self-employed. It was like the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
And there were no like extreme boundaries, on what you should be doing and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. It's like everything's open.
Yep.
And it all hits you in the face at the same time. And it's almost like once a person goes once they retire,
Yeah.
how they talk about they have no time. It's the same thing. And so
It's a blessing and a curse too, because it's like
for sure.
I went through the same thing in 2020 when I left Aerotech and did my now do the business full time.
Yeah.
I remember being like, wow, you have so much time and freedom and control. And this is great. But at the
Right.
same time, that's actually your biggest challenge.
Yes.
Because now you're like, well, where do I spend my time? And no one's going to check in me. I don't got two meetings a day now, which
Yeah.
I didn't like doing anyways.
Right.
But it's just like this whole world opens up, the floodgates open up. And now you have to be really smart with your time and discipline because no one's going to come ask you. You don't got to report to anyone. It's like you control your own destiny, but that is the opportunity. And it's also the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was tough. And, at the time when we first started, like I said, we had 3 kids. We have 6 now.
That's incredible. Dude.
Yeah. Hence part of the reason why, got out, right? Started with 3 and ended with 6.
That's wild.
But yeah, and that's, and so my cousin Austin, a master when it comes to structure and execution, and I think he only had one job in his life, right? As like a busboy, and after 2 weeks he got fired.
Nice.
That was like when he was in high school. And so all he knows is self-employment and and how to structure your time and the guy's a genius when it comes to like time and money. And and I tend to be a little bit more, free spirited, free floating, kind of go with the flow a little bit of like just reading the room, feeling the momentum. And, he's the exact opposite. And so we worked well together, and there was a lot of healthy tension, and we grew up next door to each other. I mean, he's my brother, he's my cousin, but he's my brother.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And so, when we, so knowing each other very well, but when we shared an office, it's like, oh, wow, this is how you're really wired, and so there was always some like there was a lot of like just really healthy tension, thoughtful disagreements, and we were both aligned, right? We would argue all the time, right? And we would never really see eye to eye in a very positive way, but that's why we were able to do what we did. And it was great.
So from the outside looking in, it looks like you're living the dream.
For sure.
You left corporate, you're pursuing your new business opportunity, you're an entrepreneur, you're bringing in more money, you've got this control now, as you say. But it wasn't quite the dream.
Exactly. Yeah. So someone said one time, he's like, I started with 4 people in a dream, and then now I have 64 in a nightmare. And I'm like, that's it.
I feel like that's happened so many
times. Oh my God. It's
wow.
And so, kind of going on the personal journey, right? There's a saying, my good friend, Don Hobbs, I don't know if you know that name.
No.
Marketing genius. He was around for a very, very long time, primarily in the real estate industry. He said, hey, the purpose of a business is to support the lifestyle of the owner, right? That's the purpose of the business. And so if that definition is true, the business was not supporting my lifestyle completely. And that was a hard thing. And I didn't know it in the moment. And, in 2023, we had twins. And
my
and then
goodness, dude.
And so that was right when, everything was kind of going, but at January of 23, the twins were born. One of the twins, we had to go down to Riley Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, for about a month. And so we were separated from the other twin, wow. So basically 4 of the kids were at home. My parents, my in-laws helped a ton. Nicole, my wife, she was, with Evie, one of the twins, and but we were gone for a little bit. That was a really tough time. And then there was a 6-month period where, Evie had she was on, oxygen. She had a feeding tube and everything else. And she's great now, right?
Okay.
She's real happy-go-lucky and everything else. They just turned 3.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And so that was tough. Right. But again, having the freedom that I had and the team that I had around me, I was able to step away, from the operation, and I had kind of designed everything to run without me. Right. And so that was good from that sense. And then, then when I got back into it, I was just off and on through that time. And we always had a saying, between me and my cousin, and kind of bled it through our entire organization: family first, family always first. And, there's no amount of money, time, whatever that's going to take me away from that. And so that's how we always prioritized everything. And so, but there was definitely a pull there, of, okay, the business isn't needing me. And then I'm not showing up for Austin, my cousin, and the rest of the team, the way that I need to. And this is more of a mental thing, on my end. And the real estate team's performing at a very high level. I mean, that was the year we were number 3 in the, in America. Wow. And then fast forward a little bit, we decide later that year to, and basically consolidate the team back into the EXP model, and some of them kind of formed their own teams or moved on to others, and then we just kind of went into a support role. But we went all in on Cheviron coaching is what we did, and so created online courses.
I remember talking to you about that.
Yeah, created online courses, hired a whole staff there. Putting on conferences, kind of like Tony Robbins type stuff is where we were going. And
what made you guys want to go that route?
Impact. Yeah, impact. That was the number one thing. Financially, it made sense too, because our overhead was significantly lower. There's a lot of money tied up into the investment of the product. But if you just think of like an online course, let's say, it's theoretically infinitely scalable.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
Once you have a packaged online digital product that you could scale and sell anywhere, it didn't require my time anymore.
But there must have been some type of problem that you guys saw. Excuse me, a problem you saw in the marketplace where you said, I think this is needed, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, with how we ran our team, honing it, a lot of other industries, operate this way too, but especially in the real estate industry, everything's governed around kind of into your world, right? Hey, how do I get online leads?
Yeah.
How do I get this online, this online marketplace and kind of cut through the noise and get people to actually come to me,
right?
Without really having to do the work, and I'll pay for it. And so you have organizations like Zillow and these that will, like Zillow's kind of the, like the death of the realtor, right? Is what they say, but they complement well. We just did not run that model. We didn't use any third-party lead gen. Everything we did was by referral. Relationship based, by referral, and we were doing over 500 deals a year right out of Fort Wayne, all all just picking up the phone, talking to them. And we taught literally, one of the philosophies was, hey, teach them how to fish. Don't give them fish, but teach them how to fish.
That's what we do in marketing.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
That's why, I've spent some time with like digital marketing, companies, and it's
God,
this is awful. And then when you told me what your model was, it's like, man, I wish I would have known you probably 2 years prior.
Yeah.
Because I already spent tens of thousands of dollars on these other companies and had zero results. And then we just gave it up.
Yeah.
And
you had nothing. You learned some things, but you had nothing kind of to support internally. You had no asset in the business after that. You're kind of like, all right, they're gone.
Yep.
Our content's gone. Our production's gone.
Yep.
And that's the unfortunate part.
And that's what we did is we just ended up hiring internally and then just kind of building it from scratch.
Yeah.
And
question on the referrals. Since you guys got pretty much all of your business on referrals, and you didn't use some of the more common methods in your industry. What is the key to getting more referrals? Because I feel like that's something I could get better at too. It's like, man, and sometimes I do get referrals, but I'm like, I don't have a process behind it. I don't have like an operating rhythm behind it. Should companies have a process behind getting referrals?
Absolutely. And then if you just look statistically, sales wise, if you get a referral, the close ratio is like 50 to 70%.
Yeah.
And so how do you manufacture referrals, right?
That's right.
That's the question.
Yes.
And a lot of times, there is definitely a system. But a lot of times it's like literally asking, just building great relationships with people and then asking them for a referral.
How often do you ask though?
Every time.
Every time you meet with them?
Yep, every time.
Because that's what I'm thinking. That's where I'm like, I was thinking about this the other day because I asked a client, I was in person with them.
Yeah.
And I felt like I don't like asking for that stuff. I like just, it's like, I don't know, it's one of those things I'm like, I don't want to ask them. I'm here to serve them.
For sure.
Is my mentality. But it's like, I got to get out of that because I got to start freaking asking.
How many people do you want to help?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's the flip.
They want to help you.
That's the flip, man.
Absolutely. And you got to get rid of that.
And they were like, yeah, absolutely. We know. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm like, I started thinking, that's why I asked that question. I started thinking, I bet I should just start asking on every call. A lot of my clients I meet with once a week. We do strategy, coaching, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, if I just asked every single call, I could probably generate 30, 40, 50% more business this year.
Yep. Exactly. Easily.
Yeah.
And it's coming to you.
Yeah.
And your odds of closing are a lot higher.
It's funny you said it because I had a client yesterday that was like, she actually came from a referral.
Yeah.
And she said, honestly, if so-and-so didn't refer you in, I probably wouldn't have bought, because I wasn't exposed to you and that kind of stuff, but I trusted them so much.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's kind of what content is if you do it right. And especially videos, you kind of create a mini referral without having to need that referral partner.
For sure.
And because then I go, you didn't come through my content, but I go, the person that referred you, guess where they found me? On LinkedIn.
Yes.
Through video content.
Yes.
So that was like, they didn't need to have that mutual connection there.
Yep.
I had built trust and credibility with them through the video content. And that's ultimately what you're trying to do.
Yep.
And that's what a referral does. It just cuts the barrier down to,
it does.
I don't trust this. What if it doesn't work? Oh my gosh.
And then when you have all the content, it adds validation to what they said.
Totally.
And so it works full circle.
Totally, man.
Right. And, but when you can manufacture referrals and you have all the content and stuff, and you're not using, the content and marketing and everything is more, it's more for validation, not the means to go get the business. It's more of, hey, when a referral comes my way and they go look me up, what's my online digital business card actually looking like? And I have all of this information and legacy data out there about what I can do, and then they could start building a relationship with you that way.
Yeah, I would argue it's both though. It does.
Yes. It is an and. It's not an either or.
But
Absolutely.
that's so true. So you're telling me I just need to ask every meeting.
Yeah.
Every meeting.
Yep,
that's the system.
Yep.
I think that's great. I think most companies do not do that.
No,
I would
not
say
at all.
99% of companies are not asking for referrals.
No, not at all. And it's been interesting as I, last 5 years, let's say, when I owned my own companies, especially on the coaching side, I was training sales teams, right, and team leaders, and how to set all of that up and teaching them that system. And then now I'm like back into a technical sales role myself, and practicing what I really preached, and getting back to the fundamentals. And it's almost like teaching, Michael Jordan, hey, no, this is how you want to shoot and everything else. And boom, now I'm back in the seat. Now I got to be that, and it's a little different. And so it is. It's all about asking.
So let's take it one step further.
Yep.
How do you ask for a referral?
Yeah, literally that. Hey, if you know of anyone who needs this product or service, can you send them my way?
And what if they say, oh, okay, I'll let you know if I do?
Yeah, please do.
Is it better to say, hey, who do you know? That was kind of the Aerotech trick, right?
Sure.
Or a corporate company, instead of, do you know anybody? Because he's
you
like,
gotta feel
I don't think so. Yeah, I think so too.
You gotta feel.
I think so too.
So the who question's always better.
Yeah.
More open-ended and everything else, and really force them to think about it.
Yeah.
But if it's in a like real quick, you're kind of exiting, sometimes a closed-ended question is better. Yeah. And you're just kind of planting the seed, for that. Then it's a matter of constantly reminding them. Mm-hmm. And so there was there's a system that we worked by. It's like we basically had who are our referral partners, right? Who were people that when I asked them, like, hey, if you know of anyone, if from real estate, hey, if you know of anyone looking to buy or sell a house, would you refer me? Yeah. And you asked them that question, and they said, absolutely, dude, every single time, 1,000%. And so now I just have to remind them of that. Right. And so I'd rank them as a person who would do it. Now, if they did or not, I would rank them that way. But then if they did give me a referral, I would move them up a category. Right. And then if they gave me multiple referrals within a year, I'd move them up another category. Okay. And then each category, let's call it 1, 2, 3. Wow. If it's a level 1, I'm contacting them every 2 weeks. Meaning that if they've given me multiple referrals within a calendar year, I'm contacting them, probably once every 2 weeks, just checking in. I'm making them my best friend. I am taking them out to dinner.
Yeah, so smart, man.
They are my sales team. My referral partners are my sales team that's giving me business. And so I'm treating them like an unpaid sales team. Right?
That's brilliant, man. Honestly, if you just stop listening to this podcast now and you took this away,
yes,
that's it. That's pure value. Because I think some of you may be great at this, but I know there's a lot of people listening to this that are not doing that to that level.
Yeah, and that's
your extra 20, 30, 40% this year.
Exactly. Easily.
Literally, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And you have most control over it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's people you're already working with that already trust and know you and stuff like that.
So imagine if I spent, say if I had $5,000 to spend. Right. And I spent $5,000 on ad spend, right? To people that do not know me.
Cold traffic.
Yeah. They do not know me. They do not trust me. They don't even like me because they don't know or trust me. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or if I took that same $5,000 and had one hell of a party with my top 15 referral partners, I'm going to get a lot more referrals.
Dude, that's such a good way to look at marketing.
That's it. So I have to look at it dollar for dollar. Yeah. And how do I cut through the noise? How do I lower the barrier and everything else? And then again, going back to it's an and, not an either or. Because when I'm pushing stuff online, and there's a very sophisticated way to do that, right? How do I hit people? From online marketing, how do I hit people? without it making it feel like I'm waterboarding them.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm hitting them from different angles and everything else, and keeping them engaged and all of that. Like that's a skill, and that's where you come in. And but then on the flip side, if I get this small elite team of referral partners working for me, getting me referrals, and then I'm getting them referrals too, if you can make it mutually beneficial, all of that online marketing stuff that you've done, it's because it's not going away unless you delete it. It's always there. It's just adding validation to the referral, and then increasing that odds. Instead of 50 to 70%, you're now going to 90+%. And that's the name of the game. And then you're, I guess, going even deeper if you want to go deeper.
Yeah, please.
Going into, so there's a concept or a theory called Dunbar's number. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
So I think it was Robin Dunbar. Someone, maybe a British anthropologist, if I recall correctly. He basically said, hey, a normal person can manage about 150 meaningful relationships. Okay.
That's a lot.
Yep, it is. And then there's a range from that. But you have these people who have databases of like 2,000, 5,000 contacts.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah.
If you can only manage 150 meaningful relationships where you know them and they know you, they could pick you out in a lineup, and then you're intentionally building that relationship with them to drive more referrals, right? That's what it is. And so you're asking literally 150 people, hey, if someone, if you ever came across anyone who needed digital marketing support or marketing support, would you refer me?
Yeah.
And you had 150 people who said, hell yeah. That's your 150 that you're calling at least on a quarterly basis. And you're staying in touch with them. You're letting them know that you like them, you trust them, you care for them, and you're there for them. If you're intentional about it, it will come back to you that way. And then meanwhile, you have other stuff in the background, and just as your engine running that way too. So now it's coming in from all angles.
So good, man. And I think the part about spending money, like how you allocate your budget, I don't think most people would think about that either. They'd be like, all right, we got 5,000, 10, 50, 100,000, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, how much of that are we putting towards referral partners and taking care of your best clients that refer you other clients? And to your point, I'd rather spend $5,000 on what I call relationship marketing, which is part of the reason we do in-person podcast. And we got a community, and it's all about kind of like shaking hands and getting to know people.
And it's a lot more fun.
It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Versus going on like trying to cold outreach every day. I mean, that's brutal sometimes. Yeah,
for sure.
And there's a place for that, but I just think, man, have you gone after your number one channel first? So let's go back to your story then.
Yes.
So I want to understand more what led you up. I know you had obviously you had twins, a little bit of complications. You had to take some time off, handle that whole situation. But what was kind of leading you up to the point where you're like, I don't want to do this whole entrepreneurial thing anymore?
Yeah. So that was interesting. So then you fast forward to 2024. Our transaction coordinator company, we had it was me and Austin, and then a third partner. Her name's Erin Peters. Awesome human being. We ended up selling our shares of the company to her, and just to get rid of that, we went all in on coaching, and we consolidated the team. We still had our real estate license and still kept it at to EXP. I still technically am the team lead of the Cheviron group at EXP Realty, right? I have one of our agents and my uncle, right? Is actually on the team and in Fort Wayne. So we've just pared that down. But yeah, we needed focus, right? We technically, personally, Austin wasn't involved in all of them, but I basically in a 3-year span, technically, started 7 different LLCs.
Jeez.
And one was 2 of which one was Chevron Enterprises, which was kind of like the holding company, if you will, or aesthetically, that's just all it was. It didn't pass through any money. And then we had my own company, which is set up as an S corporation, and that's where through the partnerships and everything from a tax standpoint, funneled everything through, and that's how I paid myself. And then if I did any like individual consulting or anything just outside of the businesses, that was that company, and I still own that company now. But we had outside of those 2. The random one-off one, it was actually called the Modern Physics Lab. So it was a technology development company. We did prototypes, proof of concept work. And so my business partner there was I call him the mad scientist, literally the smartest man you would ever meet. And we were the one main product that we had there was it's being developed right now. We partnered with a company out of Cape Town, South Africa, for a medical device that was obsolete, and we're still working, but they just didn't manufacture it anymore. And so basically redesigning it, digitizing it, and putting it back on the market. And so we did all the development work for that. So just kind of taking some newer technologies, putting it into an older, very stout device. Now,
what's your thought process on doing a bunch of different businesses versus focusing on one or two and growing the shit out of that?
That's kind of leads me to where I am now. Okay. You know what I mean? And but then the other businesses were so we had the Cheviron Group, which is a real estate team. We had Cheviron Coaching, which is real estate training and coaching. We had Cast Transaction Services, and then we also had Cheviron Insurance, right? So did home and auto, and so like all of those companies just overlapped. And so when
were you guys like a broker?
Yeah, exactly. And we had another partner there who helped process everything. And so basically we, anytime someone was buying a house, they needed to buy home insurance. And so it was just a natural referral. And, we disclosed, hey, we do own the company, but if you need insurance, here you go. Here's a good option for you. And so it worked. Right. And then everything. So those companies were all aligned in real estate and all kind of overlapped. And the other one was just kind of like, I really love the technical side of things, and physics degree and everything else. And I always, even going into the corporate world, I always missed that side of it, right? And hence why I was very focused to do what I'm doing now. But 24, on a personal note, we were pregnant again, and actually lost a son during pregnancy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was about halfway through, and you hear of like miscarriages and things like that, fairly frequent, or you hear of them, right? It's not all the time, but when it hits you, that was different, and I don't know if it was a midlife crisis or whatever you want to call it, but it just kind of hit me of like, is this, we're going all in, we're selling these companies off, we shut down the insurance company, we consolidated the real estate team.
Are you making good money at this point selling the companies? Are you cashing out pretty large?
It's not as sexy as they make it out to be. You know what I mean?
All
like it's a fair deal, right? But you put in put a lot of time and money into getting it all set up and unraveled, right? Some of these things are really easy to get in, really hard to get out.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And so we were just fighting for simplicity and focus, right? To your question, you try to build out this empire and all these different things that are happening, but if you're distracted, from, playing over here as opposed to going over here where you needed to be, we had higher margins, higher potential, higher impact, all on the coaching.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's just, shut everything down for focus and go. And, but then through that time, it's like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And, and as, really allowed, we had the tragic event, and, and then, we were consolidating everything else at the same time. And then through that, it's like, I guess I really missed the technical side of things. And I got that fix, in corporate America within Allegis Group or Aerotech, talking to engineering managers and directors and really moving and bringing projects to life. And, in my later years there, I was more on the services side, easy at the time. Now it's Actalent Services. And so really part of those types of conversations, which was great, and really hit the technical side of my brain. And, but I missed that. And, going into real estate, it was, from an identity thing, it's like, I partnered into real estate because of my cousin. I always said, hey, I joined the family business, and, then his dad, right, is my uncle, and he's been in the business for, 40 some odd years.
Right.
And so, but it just felt off. And then, then we had that event, and we were kind of consolidating everything. And then we find out we get pregnant again. And it's like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to be done. And, worked on, in Austin's, sport through all of it. And ended up just selling my shares of Chevron Coaching, or really he bought all the products, and future, potential revenue from those is where that worked out. And so parted ways, and I still talk to him regularly, a couple times a
That's
week,
good.
helping him with his stuff, and
Yeah.
and vice versa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just talking shop, and we're still best friends, you
That's
know what I
cool,
mean?
yeah.
And he's the godfather of, my, my sixth child, and so, but we were still living in our first house, and we needed the bigger house. We needed all these things. And, okay, the purpose of the business is to support the lifestyle of the owner. Like, my lifestyle and Austin's lifestyles were very different. And I needed the business to support me. We needed to really invest back into the company to get the Chevron Coaching thing up. It was just a different business. And so even though the company was around and doing well financially, we needed to take it from here to here. And it's like, I can't make that investment again when I have a lot more mouths to feed, when I have a lot more, and I had all the weight too of all of that, you know what I mean? When I was at home, and, we would teach people work-life balance and everything in the entrepreneur world, and how to set boundaries and everything else. And it's like, okay, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. I'm physically present, but I'm not mentally present, And
what do you mean by that?
Okay, I'm sitting at the dinner table and everything else, and I'm thinking about, okay, we have payroll next week. We got all these things to get done. I'm running the operation. All the different meetings, all the different, thinking about, finances to technology. Hey, we have this. We're paying, $5,000 a month for this. For this software, this technology, and we're only using 10% of it. How do I maximize that? That was a stupid thing. Why did I make that investment? Like all of those things.
Yeah.
And that mental load of the operation. Am I showing up enough for my real partner, my wife? And then am I showing up enough for my business partner? And which one is more important? And then I also had this own identity thing too. Like I love the technical side, and like I miss the engineering speak. You don't get that in real estate.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
We did a little bit. We partnered with a company. We helped them with their company, help them build it and everything. It was a custom luxury home builder. So that was we didn't have equity in the company, but we helped build that company. And so I got a little bit of it, from new construction and building and everything else. And but it's just like, okay, I think I'm ready. And
do you remember the moment that you first thought you were ready to go away from owning the businesses to back to W-2 employment work?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
And was there some resistance around it too when you first thought about that?
Yeah, that's resistance is a really good word, right? And as a competitor, right? Which we all are, entrepreneurs. I envision a lot like professional athletes.
Totally.
And you are made to fight through the resistance. Hey, I have these thoughts, I have this resistance and everything else. I'm supposed to push through. This workout sucks. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Go work harder.
Yeah.
Right. And that was really hard to like, what? I think the resistance is meant to literally hold me back. And over the last number of years, I built a good relationship with a guy named Dr. Joe Courier, who I believe you know.
Yeah.
And
I was going to ask you, because it sounds like you've talked to somebody, just the way sometimes you talk about things. I'm like, you've talked to like a pro.
Yeah, many.
And thought about it a lot too.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, Dr. Joe. And I would never, it was always hard for me I didn't ever want to abuse that relationship. You know what I mean? Because we would always talk business and shop and everything else. And a lot of what I was doing was kind of like, I went to Dr. Joe and said, hey, I'm making myself your apprentice, whether you like it or not. And I'm just going to learn from the best.
Yeah.
And
how would you describe him for the audience who doesn't know him? Is he a therapist, psychologist?
I would describe him. So Dr. Joe, licensed, psychologist, right?
Okay.
Doctorate degree in psychology, organizational leadership psychologist.
Yeah.
Went into a Legis Group as their chief learning officer.
Yeah.
And that company was basically his lab.
Yeah.
And I really believe,
What an opportunity. Jeez.
Oh man,
You win one client, it's just like
just amazing.
That's why you never
amazing. Just all the different, all the different stories and conversations, and I really believe that company is so successful the way it is because of his work. And and how do you intentionally build a relationship at which and a relationship. I look at relationships. I look at a company of, okay, you have a company, but it really matters what the culture is. And I look at culture like the quantity and quality of the relationships on your team. But how do I manufacture those relationships? How am I intentional about those relationships? And that's where a lot of Dr. Joe's work comes in.
Yeah.
And so all of that being said, Dr. Joe's statement is, hey, keep the main thing the main thing. And it's like, okay, well, what is the main thing? And, and like, okay, well, what game am I really playing?
Yeah.
What game are others? Why am I trying to play a game it's something I don't want to play anymore? And so I got really clear on the game I wanted to play at this stage in life and my season of life. And I just said, committed to that. That's the main thing. I really need to make sure I'm putting family first. I'm simplifying everything. I'm trying to build this empire, and then like, that doesn't fit. And, because the main thing is my family. I don't want to get, 20 years down the road and, my son, doesn't know that I love him.
Yeah.
I don't want that,
Yeah.
And so just fighting for simplicity and everything else. And, and so that was tough, but yeah, November.
Did you start to feel like your kids didn't know if you loved them or not? Was there a point where you kind of were starting to get to where you thought,
no,
okay,
no, not necessarily. It was my wife, amazing human being, right? There's when you get married, in the church, we're very Catholic, right? So when you get married, you become one.
Yeah.
And but what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was something I struggled with, you know what I mean, for a very long time, and what that understanding is. And my understanding of it now is much more clear. And I would make decisions, now more than ever do I listen to her. Like I truly listen to her. To where I would listen to her before, but like she has the greatest, instincts on people. She's not a business person by any means, but she understands business better than any entrepreneur or business person, right? Because she understands people so well. She understands me better than anyone, much better than myself. And so really listening to, to her and, and so she's a mom's mom, I call it, right? I mean, just really in tune with the kids and just how the experiences and the magical moments that she creates. She does an amazing job there and really holds me accountable to doing the same thing.
Totally.
Where comparing, myself to maybe someone else, she doesn't care about that.
Right,
I'm a rock star, you know what I mean? Compared to others, but
and your kids think that too.
They do. I really do. And they say that
sure.
to me all the
sure,
time.
yeah.
And, I love them dearly. You know what I mean? I try to be there for everything. I'm running the youth wrestling program that my son's part of right now.
Nice.
And, help out with, we got him into tackle football this past year.
Nice.
And so all the things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the time of this recording, he's in third grade. My oldest is in fifth grade, and then it goes down from there. And so, now, life is good.
That's awesome, man. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
And happy that you made that decision, because it really was the best thing for you, even though there's just a bunch of noise and outside. And I was going to ask you about the ego aspect of it.
Yeah.
You had there's that, you're like, I want to be I'm going to show up better for my kids, my wife, my life, really, which is I was building this business to support my life. And now my life is trying to support the business. It's almost like flipped.
Yep.
But there's this other side of like, when you set out to, I don't know, at least for me, when you set out to grow a business, it's like, there's a certain ego element of like, I'm going to make this thing great. I'm going to be this and that. And it kind of drives you, but at a certain point, it can actually hold you back too.
For sure.
But there's that element of like, if I think about going back to get a job, it's like, did I lose or did I fail or did
That's literally it.
It's tough. And no, the answer is no. If it's the right move for you, of course not.
Yeah.
But it's like I would wrestle with that a little bit.
Yeah. No, and I did.
Yeah.
I very much did. And it was hard for me to have those conversations with people. And, I would have this conversation with many people, and I would just go into this whole story and why I did what I was doing and everything else. And after all of these different conversations I would have with people, the common thread amongst all of them, They didn't care.
Exactly, dude. Only person that cared was you.
They cared about me.
Yes.
You know, they cared about my well-being and what I'm
Yeah.
doing, but they don't care what I'm doing.
People are too busy with their own shit
Exactly.
anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So, but I did, it was, that was, you know, it was therapeutic for me to keep talking about it and have the conversations and to reach out to the people that, okay, who's going to be the most difficult conversation in my mind to share this news to? And so I just started talking to all of these people and a lot of, you know, friends and family and everything else. Okay. You know, it was, you know, I'm not a failure. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it was,
I think if anything, you're brave
sure.
for doing something that I think most people are scared to do.
For sure. And like Dr. Joe says, you know, keep the main thing the main thing.
That's right.
You know, and I still, you know, right now my whole thing is, you know, fight for simplicity and you know, simplicity. And I'm at a point of simplicity, right? You know, I'm in a technical sales role and I'm, you know, just, you know, set meetings, find projects, win projects, right? Like that's what it is. Yeah. And, but because of what I know, you know, of all the different things, like getting back into that, having that laser focus, I see all of these other things like operationally and with the business and and everything else. And it's like, that's not the problem I am meant to solve right now, you know? And, you know, the problem that I'm meant to solve is I need new business,
right?
You know, the company needs more sales.
Yeah.
And so that's my job, you know, is to go do that. Let me go hunt and find.
Yeah, it's fun too.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And just having the focus and, you know, now all the work is still going to be on your mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, even when you're in corporate America to, you know, to now and everything else, it's part of how you're wired and the makeup of you.
Yes.
It's like you just always want to go.
Yes.
And, but there's tools and frameworks that you can use to, you know, to compartmentalize and focus. And, you know, now what's really nice, I don't have the burden of the operations.
Yeah.
I still have the burden of, I need to continue to drive and grow because there's you know, the mouths to feed everyone in this, you know, in this facility, in this company is dependent on me.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, there's a small sales team. And in this small sales team, it's an elite team, great team, right? But we have to make sure that works, you know, coming into this place.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, let's call it sales and marketing, right? It's the same no matter if you're working for someone else or you own your own stuff. Like it's one of the most important vital functions of an organization. And it's neat to be a part of that again and kind of shaping it. You know, I'm learning the basics or kind of getting back to the basics and operating and everything, but some of the things that I know, it's neat to help shape that, you know, for the future of the company too.
Yeah.
And
I want to talk about where you're at today here in 1 second.
Yeah.
I want to ask an important question here that I'm genuinely curious about. In the future, at some point, would you ever consider going back?
My wife said,
into owning your business?
My wife said, until all the kids are in school, I can't do anything.
Dang, you got some time then. Yeah.
I literally had this.
Just in any school, or what do you mean? Any school?
Well, she said 20 years. I'm like, wait until our youngest, you know, who's
when they're out of school, like past high school.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Okay,
you know, when they're all you know, past high school.
Well, what do you
and everything.
think, though?
We'll find out. But I literally had an idea the other day. I'm like, hey, I could do this. You know?
Yeah.
And which ties into like what I'm doing now and everything else. And hey, how do I get all these things to work together? And you know, and what I'm really good at is how do I get all these different systems? I'm a very, very much a systems thinker. And how do I get all these systems working together in unison? And I can just pull this golden thread that unlocks everything. And my time and focus and energy is very narrow, and I'm not stretched across the entire organization or across the entire system, because when you have all these different systems, I now become one. So I'm not so my impact can stay really deep. I just have this one golden thread. What's this one thing or this theme that I can focus on? And so when I see all these different, you know, things and opportunities out there, right? I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, focus, Nate.
Yes.
Focus.
Well, I think the exciting thing about life, man, is you never know where it's going to take you.
For sure.
You know, you could crush it in this job in the next 7 years, 5 years, do amazing for them, help them grow, have an idea. Maybe they become a customer or something, you grow them even more.
Sure.
Maybe you leave. Who knows? You go back into entrepreneurship. Kids are a little bit older. It's easier to manage. You have more experience.
Yeah.
Or you don't. It's just like, I think that's the cool thing about I heard one day, and it's really stuck with me. Don't judge yourself for where you are today. Like people stop and they think, well, where am I at right this second?
Yeah.
And they kind of judge their life on like, I'm here.
Yes.
But in 6 months, something could completely change.
Totally.
Or in 5 years,
Yeah.
you could be look back and go, wow, I thought that was like the end of the road. That was just getting started.
Yeah.
I think you're just getting started.
Yeah, I am. And, there's two thoughts as you were sharing that. It was told to me, hey, it's really hard to connect the dots in the moment. But when you look back, you really see it, and you recognize that everything that you have done has prepared you for what you are about to do. And it's like, yeah, that's it. And I see it now in the seat that I'm in and what I'm doing. And it's really comforting, and I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm.
I really am. And as I was sharing that, I forgot the second thing that I was going to say.
It's all good, man. No, I think that's exactly right. I think that's the approach too, is like, hey, enjoy the area, or enjoy the period that you're in right now.
Yeah.
And don't be so eager to go to the next or this or
Yeah.
that. And just know there's something coming for you, man. There's always something coming for us. You know?
That was it actually. I have over the years, I really look at, in the past years, like setting up the companies and everything else, I would, so for advice for your listeners right now, I would always say, hey, will this scale for the next 15 to 20 years? Hey, this action that I'm doing right now, will this scale? Will I have a long runway? What team am I putting in place to run without me and to sustain the business and to grow it? And it's too far. It's way too far thinking. And the number that I keep hearing is about 18 months. Always look at 18 months out. And, 18 months is because there's so much that can change within that time frame. And it might, to some people who are real global thinkers, 18 months is like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Right. But stay disciplined and stay focused there. And so that's, that's where I'm at now. Right. It's like, okay, yeah, I get that, but let me focus on the right now. And what's going to help me this next month, these next 6 months, this next year, this next 18 months tops. And so, yeah.
Very cool, man. So how would you describe the company that you're at now in a couple sentences? What you guys do?
Yeah. Manufacturing systems integrator. Right. So we do automation, robotics, vision systems, really, really cool, smart technology, right, to fully automate a manufacturing facility. That's what we do. So my job is to go find those types of projects. I have a very talented team behind me, and, we concept them, we scope it out, say, hey, this is what it's going to cost you to implement this new system, to design, build, and install it, complete turnkey system. Sometimes they're, maybe like a peripheral or auxiliary system that'll attach to an existing system, but a lot of what we do is full turnkey. So think of like a fully automated production line. We do that, and
very cool.
It's fun. It really is. Like I'm nerding out every day.
That's cool. You get the technical side of you going.
Man. I do. And that was something I was looking for too, right? Because it was November of 24. I was finally unemployed again, right? Wow, yeah. And I'm like, hey, what do I want to do when I grow up? And so I actually went back to the very beginning and said, hey, right when I graduated, from college, I wanted to be like a sales engineer, application engineer, and I really wanted to do that. And so there's only a select number of companies that that did that.
Yeah.
And the founder of the company, he actually sold to a larger group called HG Automation. So Adaptech Systems is the company that I'm at right now, and there's a number of different companies that that Joe, he's still the CEO of the company, stayed on and still managing the operations. But then HG Automation, a lot of different other operating companies that each has its own niche, if you will. So we have the backing of a very large company, but then each company has its own specialty.
Yep.
And so my job is to go in, I kind of wear the Adaptech hat primarily. And I go in with a very specific focus. And then as I'm understanding, what it is that the company needs and different projects and everything else, I can then leverage the different, capabilities of the whole company, to take on whatever it is that they need. So, because manufacturing right now, it's just with the, whether it's the current administration, the current climate, everything else, manufacturing in the U.S. is popping. And it's awesome.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I actually have this report that I printed out, the manufacturing PMI, which is, I guess, kind of signals the strength of manufacturing in a lot of ways. It's at 52.6%. January 2026 ISI manufacturing PMI report. So this is like the report. I think it's called the ISM though, Institution for Supply Management. And so what they're saying is new orders are growing, production is growing, employment contracting, supplier deliveries are slowing, raw materials inventories contracting, customers inventories are too low, prices are increasing, imports unchanged, exports are growing. There's a lot going on there.
A lot going on.
So what do you see from a manufacturing standpoint? You said it's booming, it's picking up, it's popping. What's going on?
Yeah. So some would say the last, 2 to 4 years, if you will, we were kind of in this tech recession.
Yeah.
And now we're coming out of it. Like I start to see it, starting to get a little more, more RFQs. Companies are actually, everyone talks about AI and, the advantages of it, and it's, amazing when you leverage it the right way. But really, I saw a stat. I think it was when you look at dollars being spent right now, 40% of them are on new hardware. And, when you looked at technology and everything else, AI integration is actually a much smaller percentage on that. But it's, hey, let me get a new robot in. Hey, we bought these systems 20 years ago. Now we need to retool. There's a lot faster equipment out there. Instead of putting Band-Aids on this existing, assembly line, automated assembly line, let's just, get rid of it and make it brand new.
Yeah.
And, that way our cycle times for products are a lot faster and everything else because there's a lot more confidence in the market, that, hey, exports are increasing right now. The rest of the world's starting to buy. There's a lot of incentive to make everything here in America, especially with tariffs and everything else that exists.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing a lot of too. Companies that would typically outsource, the automation work and everything overseas, they're looking domestically now.
So I guess the tariffs are working from that standpoint.
Oh, very much.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
So I heard one individual talk. I was basically saying, hey, this would be the ideal state. The U.S. dollar, devalued. Tariffs keep going up. Which really makes us competitive against, foreign competition, right? Which you kind of think the opposite. Why do you want the dollar to devalue, right? But when you compare dollar for dollar across the other countries and we're comparable, it actually makes a lot more sense to produce, in the U.S. And when you produce in the U.S., just like anything, regardless of what the rest of the world's doing, if you can produce things, produce widgets, produce stuff and sell it, and you have this constant cash flow coming in, it really doesn't matter what the market's doing, right? If you're still producing.
Right.
So I suppose that's true with anything.
Now, I don't know a ton about this, but like when I think about China and these other, countries that produce goods for a low cost, are they just not as good as the more technological things? Because I think, how do we compete with China when it comes to manufacturing? Like, it just seems like they would just pay their people nothing, and it's like, we're not going to do that here. You know what I mean? So,
sure.
So how is that? Is there a different competitive landscape that is going on that I don't know about?
What do you think? I don't know too much, right? I don't know enough to confidently say one way or another, right? But what I know about, say, China specifically is, they are as advanced, if not more advanced, in some areas than we are, and
but they just pay their people so much less. So it's like,
yeah.
How do we...
So, but I do know that their workforce is increasing, and because of that, because they're paying people more, we're now more competitive because the cost of that. And then they have, whole government subsidies and everything else that go into that. And that's where I really don't understand it all. And actually what's happening.
Yeah.
But that's part of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of what they're doing and we're basically from a U.S. manufacturing standpoint, we're trying to do what we can to box out the rest of the world, bring manufacturing here, really incentivize people to produce here. And I'm starting to see that trend, as the more conversations that I'm having and everything else. So yeah.
I was talking to my Founder Talk community, which, by the way, if you're not a part of that, join. It's free. It's in the description. You can talk with other founders, talk about guests coming on the show, questions we want to ask them.
Yeah.
But I was asking, I pulled up that report, and I said, it looks like manufacturing's picking up, which is usually a good kind of indicator that the economy is going to start to go,
For
right?
sure.
But then it also says like the hiring's not following it, at least not yet. Maybe it's just a little bit lagging behind. Do you think because of automation and AI, now we got humanoid robotics in factories? I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. Like, do you think some of that stuff is just going to kind of like the consolidation the past couple of years? One, probably people are just utilizing their people more and technology more. So maybe that catches up as they continue to ramp. But do you think part of it is that we just won't hire as much because of the technology?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think it's if there's a pause, it's more of a stun gun, if you will, because they're trying to figure out, okay, where is it that we actually need to hire? And so if we're retooling and we're pivoting our organization in a particular way, I don't want to hire just to hire. I want to be very, very smart and tactful with it. And, if we're bringing in different, technology that we need to train people properly for, I'm gonna get very specific with what type of technology we have. And I believe it's more of that. And automation. I see automation actually, if we don't automate and we don't do that, we will lose jobs.
Yeah, we'll fall behind too. Yeah,
we will. We need to advance, because companies because if we don't automate, China is, right? Totally. Other countries right now, they're all automating, right? And
it's like AI. You have to get on board.
You have to. Yeah. You have to.
What do you think about the humanoid robotics?
Love it.
They're in factories.
I think it's doing job. Yeah, they've come a long way.
Man, have they?
Yeah, a long way. It's neat to see. And it's amazing just how just being like around the engineering world again, and just the amount of programming and just the dexterity that some of these robots have. It's like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And how fast that's accelerating right now. I'm excited to see like where it's going.
Yeah.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what I do right now, it's like, okay, just like anything else, just like your world, right? Okay, well, what's your problem?
Yep.
What do we have to do to solve it? And, where there's a right now fix, there's a long-term fix, and how do we bridge that gap? And what kind of time and money do we want to put into that? Right.
Yeah.
So it's still the same conversation no matter what.
Yeah.
And you just now have more tools to apply, with the humanoid robotics and, other advanced technologies to apply to the problem.
That's right.
And so one of the hardest things right now to manage is actually what technology exists. And going back to, okay, if I have $5,000 to spend on ad spend or $5,000 on an event, which one's going to have the bigger bang for my buck? And that's what's really being figured out right now. And I suppose it'll always be figured out, but it's like, okay, well, what's the next right best decision to make for our organization if I'm spending multi-million dollars on a line, and how am I thinking through that?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's really what it boils down to.
There's a lot of options. It's almost like that becomes a challenge of like, all right, what the hell, where do we even start?
Yeah, where do we even go?
And what is the right option for us, and what technology and tooling and all that stuff. So, well, if the one word was control years ago, what is the one word now?
Simplicity. Simplicity.
Love that.
Yeah.
And you alluded to that too,
yes.
so that's not surprising.
That is it. Simplicity.
And you feel like you've got that now.
I'm still working on it.
It's always a work in progress. I feel like,
Oh man, I'm fighting for it.
Yeah. Well, Nate, this is an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming all the way out here and doing this too. Where can people connect with you, learn more about what you guys do, and get in touch?
LinkedIn's a great way. Yeah.
We'll
LinkedIn.
Link it up.
Yeah.
Anywhere else? Website? We'll link the website too.
AdaptTechSystems.com.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a great one.
We'll put your LinkedIn profile, website, all the good stuff in the description.
Cool.
And thanks again for coming out.
Yeah,
man.
thank you for having me.
Thanks, brother.
Mm-hmm.